This is Verdantia, my new 2,000-gallon tropical grasslands vivarium. It's an expansive reconstruction of a tropical savanna ecosystem, with creatures already living and breeding inside it. Stunning, isn't it? I'm so proud of it. It's my personal biological project, where I plan on recreating biomes of the natural world and connect them all together for the purpose of studying how ecosystems work in the wild. But the ecosystem within Verdantia here was still very much so incomplete. The time had come to add another missing piece to the grand biological puzzle that would transform this grassy world into a true grassland. The plants of Verdantia have all had 6 weeks to establish and were exploding in grassland foliage. And so it was now time for Verdantia to welcome its next round of creatures. Creatures that are quintessential to all grasslands, whose purpose is to eat plants and control their overgrowth. Herbivores. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 7 of my Ecosystem Vivarium Series, where we pull back the curtain on this largely unknown and biodiverse world of green, grains, stripes, and astonishing critters of the grass, but not without a few surprises, courtesy of Mother Nature, here on the AntsCanada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC fam. Enjoy. Now, there was a bit of an issue with the addition of new herbivorous creatures into Verdantia that I didn't quite have while constructing my other ecosystem vivaria. Many grassland herbivores, at least as far as insects go, have a specific host plant or set of plant species that they prefer to eat. This meant that the herbivores I would be adding into Verdantia next needed to be local species, because all the plants here in Verdantia were sourced from a local grassland where I live. I had to go back to the field and search for our new herbivores. But the long grass was a bit wild and scary. The grassy area from which I had sourced Verdantia's plants had grown a lot since I was last here several weeks back, due to it currently being rainy season. Now, I knew this field was full of insane creatures, both great and small, some of which could hurt me, and a couple of which could actually kill me if I wasn't careful. But on the other hand, there were some key creatures I was specifically looking for that I felt would be perfect for Verdantia. I went into the foliage, vigilant and cautious, with all my equipment and containers in hand, as I began with the great collection. Little did I know, some interesting surprises awaited me in the long grass. But speaking of surprises, back home in Verdantia, the tally of newly discovered grassland creatures was growing. Even prior to this addition of new herbivores, the leaves were already looking like Swiss cheese. The plants were being eaten by some hidden creatures. It turns out Verdantia was already a biodiverse menagerie of animal life. A tiny green chrysalis lay discreetly attached to a thin blade of grass. Its green color perfectly matched the surrounding grass, and it even had a pair of eyes. A butterfly should be hatching out of here, and I couldn't wait to see what species it was. Several of these small cryptic-colored moths were all around the grasslands, which I only spot when they're rested up against the glass. Normally their camouflage keeps them well hidden. Here's another species of moth I found. I just love the hairs on it. It looked like a teddy bear. It was quite large, but not as large as this other gorgeous moth I found hiding in the foliage. This beauty is Theritra nessus, a yam hawk moth. She was big. Check out the size of it. Looking under the leaf, its pattern of browns, orange, and creams was truly stunning, as well as its sleek body shape. All these moths were surely imported into here as caterpillars or pupae by way of the decor and plants. Man, moths are just so underrated, wouldn't you say? But that's not all. There was so much more. A weird plant insect, possibly some type of scale insect that sucks on the sap of plants. A tiny lacebug, also a plant sapsucker, and also very specific with their choice of host plant. So the fact that they're in here means I probably imported them along with their plant food of choice, which was good. Verdantia had many leaf hoppers, like this little guy here. They also suck the sap from grass and other plants. Speaking of sucking the sap from plants, have a look at this bug. I found this bug feeding from a flower bud of one of the plants. I was amazed to see its proboscis, the feeding/sucking apparatus it stuck into the bud. This was the first time I've ever seen anatomy like this, where there was a clear needle part, which was dark in color, and another larger tube part, which was attached to a different part of the head. Isn't that just amazing? Bugs are also underrated. Now, there were several flies in the grasslands, but here was one of them. Some kind of midge or other fly species. There was also this black juvenile cricket, which I've been watching grow up over the past few weeks. It eats a lot and was growing fast. There was also this young cricket clinging onto a blade of grass on a windy day. Not sure of its species. Now check out these guys. The cutest, tiniest, most stunning katydid babies. These are Philippine katydid nymphs, a very special katydid species native to the Philippines where I live. I always have a special love for creatures that I know are found nowhere else in the world, but where I live. And lucky for us, AC family, these little guys were seen everywhere in Verdantia. I can only assume due to their tiny size that these were all recently born here, hatching from eggs which are laid on the underside of leaves. I couldn't wait to watch these Verdantia natives grow up in our grasslands. Now, there were also some anomalies. Creatures I couldn't quite identify because either they were too small, like this moving critter, what on earth is that? Or were kind of ambiguous in appearance, like this creature. Is this a beetle or a type of bug? Or this creature, which could be a fly or a type of wasp? Whatever the case, it was clear that our grasslands were already harboring an amazing community of herbivorous creatures, and it was about to get a whole lot bigger. I did my best to work quickly and effectively as I swept my net through the foliage, periodically checking my net for insects. It was scorching hot. I was being feasted on by mosquitoes, and I was scared of what could be hiding in the foliage. But I did find a couple cool things on my search. At one point, I ran into a massive termite nest, the same species that grows the termitomyces fungus that I introduced into Verdantia a couple weeks back. And speaking of fungus, check out this cool brown mushroom I spotted growing from a stick on the ground. But this terrified me beyond words. This was a big no, and as soon as I spotted it, I knew I had to leave ASAP. A pile of inconspicuous leaves, all pulled together in the middle of this lush field, made my heart stop. AC family, this is a nest of a king cobra, also native to where I live. Thankfully, I didn't step on it, but had I not been aware, I totally could have. Inside was definitely a female king cobra, and the male was possibly also nearby. King cobras aggressively protect their nest and are fatal if I were to get bitten. This was the end of my search. I carefully picked up my gear and left the grasslands. Shook by what I found, it also filled me with the utmost respect for the grassland into which I was entering. These lands were no joke. I was just thankful that I was able to collect a few interesting species to bring home for Verdantia. The new creatures lay in their containers, waiting to be released. Let me introduce them to you. First, I found another one of these katydid nymphs. Super cute, but this one is slightly larger than those in Verdantia. In this container, I was surprised and delighted to find a few of these in my net. Slant-faced grasshoppers. A throwback to Season 1, we've seen them added to my first vivarium, Pandora, but they failed to survive predation. I suspect the species is more suited to grasslands than forests. This one is a juvenile, as it doesn't have its full wings yet, but there is one here that is an adult. Next, we had a variety of these ordinary grasshoppers of different colors and ages. You guys will love this little one. In this container is a truly spectacular beetle known as a green tortoise beetle. Check out the colors. The edges of its elytra, the heart coverings of its wings, and thorax are partially see-through and venated, but dotted with stunning black, orange, and green iridescent spots. I'd only seen pictures of this beetle, but seeing it in real life took my breath away. They eat plant leaves, and though this was the only one I found, I hoped it was a female and pregnant so we could continue to have them in our grasslands. This next creature is not a herbivore, but finding it in my net, I just had to take it home. This is a beautiful lynx spider of the genus Oxyopes. Its stripes were just stunning, and I could see how it could hide well in a world of grass and foliage. These spiders are hunters, not really web spinners, and have great eyesight, which they use to spot prey in the grass. This is a female, and I was hoping she was pregnant. Alright, there were a few other creatures I'm going to add in, but let's deal with these ones first. Releasing the slant-faced grasshoppers. The green grasshoppers. Releasing the baby katydid. Placing in our tortoise beetle. And our lynx spider. In you go. Alright, I also wanted to add two of these. In Arcadia, I found a freshly mated pair of crickets and abducted the female. Yoink! See the spermatophore? She would now be pregnant and in a day or so would lay the eggs into Verdantian soils and thereby seed our future cricket population from a Pangean line. In Pandora, I found another pair of courting crickets and yoink! Captured the male. He could mate with the female once she was ready to mate again. Now, I was happy with this to start off our initial set of herbivores. I didn't want to throw a swarm of grasshoppers and plant eaters inside because I didn't want them to wipe out all the plants. In one fell swoop, I wanted to take this slow and have the herbivore population grow with the grasses and plants. But AC family, we aren't done. For there was one other creature I found that I was thrilled to add in. I'm pleased to show you our last herbivore. Meet this green citrus locust. She was a massive beauty, about 8 centimeters in length. We've added one of her into Arcadia, our canopy vivarium in the past, but sadly she ended up dying of old age. They feed on several species of plants and live anywhere between the canopy of forests and grassy fields. Come with me, my precious. I placed her into Verdantia. and she immediately leaped into the grass, where she stood still for a moment, taking in her new surroundings. Soon she began to move, and I watched wide-eyed as our giant empress of a locust moved through the foliage and began to clean herself. Before moving on, I loved the look of her wings, the venation of which looked totally like a leaf. Her thorax and head were... Oh! Looks like she left us a gift. That turd would definitely help fertilize the plants. She began to move and smell the leaves as she went. And here's an interesting fact. Grasshoppers, katydids, and locusts, like her, have taste buds on their feet. So she's actually tasting these plants as she moves along via chemoreceptors called gustatory sensilla on her foot pads. I couldn't wait to see which plant she would choose to munch on in Verdantia. The mist was beginning to roll in. Then she hopped and clung onto the glass and started to climb. Those foot pads are also sticky and allow her to cling onto the smoothest of surfaces, despite her large size. I watched as she regally continued to climb up the glass to the top of the tank. Where would she go next? She made a turn and inched her way along the top, where she finally climbed on to the fig leaves of the great tree. Now it made sense that she would have a preference for tree life, as she was also a canopy creature. Up she went and began to chew on the young soft leaves of the fig. I was so happy she had found her spot. With all the creatures in, I closed the door and looked forward to seeing how they would all manage their new grassland life the next day. The female cricket was eating leaf litter. The male was wandering around, totally foregoing a piece of apple, as he was looking for the female, whom he was attempting to track by scent. A slant-faced grasshopper was enjoying the peaceful morning. A young grasshopper was moving ever so slowly in hopes to not alarm a predator that might be watching it. It leaped onto a nearby twig. It was then that the winds began to kick in and move the air within Verdantia, along with all its grass and plants. It was pretty awesome to see the grasshoppers hanging on to the swinging grasses, and others seeking places in the grass that were less breezy. I never thought to wonder what grasshoppers did on windy days, but for these grasshoppers, this was all totally routine. One grasshopper found a much more stable location on the glass. I also spotted the cute katydid juvenile we caught, swaying with the grass. It seemed pretty adept at sticking onto its blade of grass, although it clearly went off to look for a less turbulent place. All creatures seemed to be quite content in Verdantia. Until I looked up and spotted our citrus green locust. She was no longer in the tree, but was now moving along the top of the tank. She was pacing. I instantly could feel that she wasn't so happy. She was looking for a way out. Carefully, she inched her way along the top of Verdantia, looking for a hole or an end to all the mesh above her. I felt really sad about this. I think she didn't like the plants we had here for her. It was in that moment that I knew exactly what I needed to do. Come here, my girl. I moved up to my window and opened it. looking out at the treetops just outside my home. This is what you're looking for, isn't it? I know. I opened the container and expected her to fly out into the trees, but instead she crawled onto my hand. Okay. Go ahead, fly. I then tried to place her on the cover and tried to tap her, but she refused to fly. Okay. I played with her a bit and tried tapping her butt, but she clung onto the plastic the whole time. I allowed her to climb on my hand, and with a mock grab using my fingers, she finally flew onto the side window. She remained there for a while, taking in the world around her. I'm sure she didn't know what the heck just happened, but inside, I hope she understood that the giant beast that captured her yesterday meant no harm. She was now free to return to her true home in the wild. I was happy with this choice to set her free, as I don't want our giant vivariums to be prisons. I want them to be ecological sanctuaries, where yes, some of the creatures may fall victim to predation at a natural rate, but where the rest could live, eat, breed, and carry out their business as they would in the wild, all while teaching us about the unique lives of their species, as well as their place in the ecosystem. It was then that I caught sight of something truly great. One of the grasshoppers was happily eating grass. Yes, they liked it. They really, really liked it. This was such a relief, and the thought that we now had a team of herbivores herbivoring and taking their place in Verdantia's food chain moved me to the core. It was the nod of approval I needed from Mother Nature. This was my dream, to create a natural grassland within glass. And today, Verdantia's ecosystem was now more complete with these new herbivores. Bon appetit, little one. Building thriving ecosystems within glass has been among the most rewarding and eye-opening experiences of my life. And so far, Verdantia was a very promising world, unique from the other vivaria. There were still many, many creatures I wanted to add in, that I planned on adding in the future. As mentioned though, I wanted to introduce life slowly, to avoid catastrophes. And so far, Verdantia was turning out to be a pretty grassland paradise, and all was going perfectly as planned. That wasn't until Mother Nature stepped in, saying, "Hold my beer." She was about to show me another side to the grasslands that wasn't so pretty. Hey, a black crazy ant. Ah, it fell. Wait. OMG. My eyes widened as I spotted the swarm. Oh no! Black crazy ants! Vote in my community tab to affect this story.